were a bit raunchy and raucous.
We kept you on a really short leash.
Nice to be on someone's leash sometimes.
I was gonna say, with that hair, you better play an instrument. It is so rock and roll. I love it.
I think she's a they. That didn't come out right. Can you do this for, a donut?
People would do anything for a t-shirt.
That's like genius.
Hey everyone, welcome to the first Rainbow Remix Rewind for 2025, and this week we're bringing you the best of the men in the mix.
And I'm so excited that Anthony is in the waiting room. He's in the green room.
Me too.
So
Me
let's
too.
let people know. Anthony Hand has created, I swear, I just love this character. He has created Maxxie LaWOW, who is a drag super shero, animated.
I took a look. I love Maxxie LaWOW. I love the name.
Wow. So we've been trying to get Anthony, but this is a really crazy time. They're in like every film festival, independent film festival that's out right now. But we've locked him in, and he's ready to rock and roll. So let's let in Mr. Anthony Hand. Oh, look at that board! That's amazing.
Love that.
Your film is just at every independent film festival, every queer film festival there is. I don't even know how you have a minute to breathe.
Oh, well, this month is kind of nutty as we also prepare the film for distribution and getting, all the deliverables you got to get together for that. So it's kind of nuts.
Oh God, we appreciate you taking out the time, Anthony. It's so lovely to finally get to meet you. And you know what really made me upset was that you were just in Fort Lauderdale.
Yes, in Miami last October.
Yes. Yeah, last October, wow. But then Cinema Paradiso, January 26th. Oh my God, I just missed them.
Wow, no. Yes.
Yeah.
It's a good busy to be though, right? To have so much excitement going on about your project. That's so awesome.
It's really cool.
Very true. Very true.
Anthony, I need to go back to the beginning. Like, you're the creator. You wrote, created, produced. Are you an animator or like what made you go cartoon?
Let's see. So I decided on animation because for a few reasons. One is because I'm just such a huge fan of animation, and I thought that this story would lend itself very well to animation. Plus, with a big part of Maxxie LaWOW is the wig, who is a character as well, and just imagining doing that all through CG, special effects, and then compositing it onto live action, I thought would be a nightmare. And especially for our first film, where I'm still very much learning the ropes. And then probably the third and perhaps more, third and fourth reasons. One reason also is just from a design perspective, we can stylize it. And so I was looking to make it kind of like a 90s, have kind of like a 90s vibe, maybe a little bit of Scooby-Doo in some ways too. But one great thing about animation is especially when it comes to telling stories that can be a little more challenging for live action, maybe touching certain political veins or social veins. I feel like animation is a little more accessible to a wider audience in some ways, and so I thought it would lend itself from that kind of a queer perspective. This film is really accessible to anyone who loves drag. So that includes our straight allies. And it also includes my mom, who loves Drag Race and, also loves animation. So, but I want it to be the kind of film that like queer kids can watch with their parents.
Yes.
How many queer themed films do we have like that? And the answer is not a lot.
None. Yeah, hardly any. So
it's
awesome
that's
a trade-off.
To wake up every day, right, and be working on something like this. That your dream and creative, your creativity is at the height of working on what you love to do.
Yeah, exactly. And this is the trade-off we make when we pursue side projects, creative projects, and we're so passionate about getting them off the ground and seeing them reach fruition and being able to share that art or that business idea, whatever the case is with the world, it's something you just do, and it's worth it, honestly, I think, in the end.
Oh yeah,
For sure.
sure,
Yeah,
sure.
it is. And I mean, if you have a supportive partner, that's
Mhm.
understanding or whatever, like that's, also a bonus. And if you don't, then you got the free time to devote to it. So it's pretty good
My
too.
cat Bailey's been pretty supportive.
It's so
Cat, much
She
better
still
than
gets
a
her tuna
dog.
treats.
Dog might not understand as well, but yeah, like have to start being able to say no to parties and no to dinners and no to let's go see this play or whatever that, because you can't, right? You just have to
Yeah.
focus on what you're doing and
Yeah, you
yeah,
can't do that.
Yeah.
it's a
But
I'm
trade-off.
overdue on vacations and going back to see my family in Michigan, for example. But yeah, I told them this year, because now that Maxie's coming out this summer, I'll have
right.
time to come back and visit again.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was thrilled that they asked if they could screen Maxie for the My Hollywood Pride. I'm like, oh my gosh, yes, have fun.
Oh yeah. Yeah, definitely. It's a good
Yeah.
time. There's so much going on down there. That's a hot spot right now. For
Yeah,
sure.
and the Outshine folks are so nice. All the Queer Film Festival folks that I've met, they
Yeah.
are doing God's work, I swear to God, bringing fantastic films, comedies, dramas, everything in between, to communities around the country. And as we mentioned before, sometimes that will be the only opportunity you might have to see these films in a theater.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And it's, I know that like especially like Miami, I think most film festivals, are scaling back a little bit.
hmm hmm
Obviously, budgets, political, whatever, the
hmm
atmosphere, all that. But there's ways that if you can't make it, like you can buy tickets and you can view a lot of the stuff online. So I
hmm
think that's
hmm
great for
Oh
people
yeah,
that
yeah.
can't get out, that might not be able to make it.
hmm
They want to support their friend or they've heard great things about this. Like I
hmm
love doing that for short films. Like
hmm
that's just,
hmm
Mhm.
sometimes it's a little chilly to be going out for a 20-minute film, watch it at home with my little fireplace on in the background, but you're still supportive.
Cat.
Yeah, absolutely. Many of the festivals nowadays will have a time limited online screening, sort
Yeah.
of parallel festival,
Yes.
where most of the films will be available for streaming as well. So we're doing that this weekend, starting this weekend for Maxxie in the Bay Area. I'm not sure what the geolocation restrictions are, probably
Right.
just California. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so it kind of varies by festival, but many of them are doing that now, and it's a great way if you can't make it to see something you really want to see,
Yeah.
as you mentioned, to see it at home. Like
Yeah.
especially some of these like blocks, like the women's block, or like a drag block or whatever. These are common kinds of themes in these
Yeah.
festivals.
Oh yeah. It's fantastic. Well, listen, we know you have a busy schedule, so we're not going to keep you, but I just want to say thank you for taking time out.
Yes,
I said I know you work during the day, so thank you
thank
so much for taking time out and telling us a little bit more and sharing Maxie with us.
what a treat. What a treat.
Yeah,
Thank you.
This has been so much fun. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And visit maxxie.com, maxxie.com for more information about screenings near you.
excellent.
Going there.
Thank you, Anthony. We appreciate it.
Hey,
Take care. He's your favorite gay finance guy, and I think he's going to be a huge help. So let's let in David Lester.
yes, totally perfect timing.
Honestly, how bad do we need
Me
this?
too.
Right? There he is.
Hey, how are you?
Hi, David.
Hi.
How's it going?
It's going well. It's really it's been a whirlwind week, I'm sure, as you guys would know.
Yes.
I'm in England, even though I'm American, I'm in England. I
Oh,
feel
fun.
a little bit safer.
Yeah.
Um,
But not that safe because they had riots when I was there in the summertime and they were
yeah,
rioting as well. It's like the
yeah, they
whole
were.
world, it just needs to
Yeah,
like take a step back and
It is.
figure out what's going on.
Honestly, it doesn't really
I
matter.
agree. I agree, David.
Um,
Yeah.
David, we were just saying how this guest interview could not be more timely.
Yeah.
Like seriously, January 2025, and everybody's in a freak, and we need to know what we should be doing. I mean, I'm going to ask you a big, sweeping, broad question that
Yes, of course.
we can then veer off in all the different avenues. But like, what do you see people's like finance? And let's just kind of narrow it to like the middle class. But what do you see our queer financial future as looking like?
Yeah, so it's it's not only I think everyone's finances is hurting right now, way more than people expect. I do individual coaching as well, in one-to-one with individuals, and I can see kind of under the hood with people that you wouldn't expect they would, they'd be doing, you would think they'd be doing well because they have big incomes, and there's like these big um problems, obviously, the big financial problems kind of looming. Never mind someone down the salary range. Like I can't even imagine how people are even, keeping their apartments and things like that. Just with inflation and people, landlords are just like handing in bills being like, oh, it's another $1,000 a month, which is
Yes.
it's
I thought that was
it's really crazy.
like such a COVID thing, but it's because nothing was like actively done after COVID was over. They just went back to that way of taking advantage. I mean, it's kind of taking advantage of people right now.
They really are.
Yeah, it's scary.
One of the things I think that kills people that live in places where they have an HOA is you hit with an assessment. I got hit with a $20,000 assessment for each apartment during COVID in my building. I mean, they thought nothing of sticking that because they were redoing all the patios. And they thought nothing of putting that on the door during COVID because I live in a building with a lot of older people. So they're all retired anyway. So it wasn't like they weren't working during that time. And I would have thought like it might have been a little better, like maybe people could ease up on it. But the HOA fees are just, if you live in a place with that, you just get killed with it.
Yeah,
I mean,
I used to too in my
a lot of
condo.
people.
After a hurricane, I think we got hit with like a $40,000 assessment for flashing that got blown off, and it seemed like, like, wouldn't there be a contingency fund for something like that? And, it's a hurricane day, it's hurricane damage, but I worry about things now, David. I mean, honestly, just watching the news for a half an hour, like that's all I'm allowing myself anymore is like a half hour, and that's it. But, the thing I see about like maybe possibly doing away with FEMA and letting states handle things on their own. And, I mean, it's all stuff that I feel like people are bracing for, and yet they don't know how to brace for it. Like,
it's true.
Should we be watching our frivolous spending? Should we be cutting our entertainment budget? Because I feel like we need that more now than ever.
It's true. But you can still have fun for free.
Yeah, true. It is. You do have to look at those websites.
The concert tickets. You can't go see a concert anymore. It's like $1,000 for two.
It's terrible.
Oh, it really is. I know. Even like trying to go to like a Yankees game or something like that for like hot dogs. It's like the hot dogs are more expensive than the hot dog and a beer. It's like more than the actual ticket to see anything.
It's so true.
It is crazy.
Yeah.
I do enjoy your positive approach, David. You really do. Like it's such a scary subject, and it's so true. Like people don't want to look at the statements. You just you put them on the bottom of the bird cage or something, or in the cat litter, like you said. But to look at it from your perspective, does it make it so scary? Like with the positive spin on things, and it's not the end of the world. Like if you do it the right way, you can.
That's what we need. Yeah, that's what we need to understand.
Yeah,
we gotta
Totally.
And it's like with the negative thoughts, like your neurons in our brains, our neurons are firing. So if you're like, this is horrible, I'm gonna have to like give blood or sperm, whatever, to make my next credit card payment. It's like it's like horror, like that. Their neurons are firing. But if you're like, I want to do this, I want to do something with people I like, start a business with someone I like. I'm already in this situation, so it's forward. Like all guns firing. We have to fire forward, no matter what. So you can it can be like a shrinkage, like negative, and then you're like in bed and you can't sleep because these are your negative thoughts.
Exactly.
Or writing down a plan, calling, emailing, setting it up. And our neurons are still firing. So it's either firing in a really positive way with with the linguistic part of our brain, or you're the mammalian, like, okay, we got to fight, right? Like something's about to eat me, and I have to like scratch and bite and scream and kick.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Fight mode. Yeah, it's so true. Oh my God, this has been so enlightening, David. Geez, thank you so much for spending time with us and getting us on a positive track here. I feel like everybody needs to go look for David's book, I Love Money by David Lester. And your website's dclcapital.com. Okay.
Yeah.
dclcapital.com.
Great logo.
Learn about David and get on this positivity train, and let's get our shit together.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And it's like if you like I always say it in the book, it's like if you love money, it'll love you back. If you love your money, it'll love you back with a great life. So you just I get it. It's I get it's like dire and everything. And I think people can sometimes be like, oh, it's easy for them to say that because they have whatever, and I'm in this situation, when you're like trying to be positive, but it really works. Yeah, it really works. And you have to, and then you just have to grow.
Like $500 in the bank or $5 million in the bank. It is about your attitude, your positivity, your excitement about it, moving forward, taking a shot at something you might not, but it is also, like you said, finding your values, and putting your money behind that, and letting it work for you. So, you know what? Thank you so much for giving us a different outlook on this grim, thing that we're this vortex that we're in. This has been fantastic. Thank you, David, so much for spending time.
Yeah, it's been great chatting with you guys.
Thank you.
Awesome meeting you.
We'll hope to see you soon. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
So today we have with us the author of this fab book.
I love it. I was looking at it online. Oh my God.
Fat gay vegan.
I love it.
Yeah, Sean O'Callahan's joining us right now. We're gonna let him in. I am frazzled because of my Okay, let's let Sean in.
I'm feeling very well.
There we go. Okay. Yeah, it's usually you.
It was almost me.
It was almost you.
Yeah.
Okay, here he comes. There he is. Oh, yay.
Hello, how you doing?
Hey, Sean, how are you?
Yeah, good, thanks.
We're both a little flustered because our Wi-Fi was down just before.
Oh, okay, sure.
So we've rebooted. We're up. We've already flashed your fancy book here. We're super excited. Fat Gay Vegan. Eat, drink, and live like you give a shit.
Oh, so we're allowed to swear, are we?
Yeah, we're definitely allowed to swear. I would have loved to see your publisher's face when you gave him that title.
Yeah, well, they were very amused by it, and I think they were secretly happy that it was a little bit subversive and attention grabbing.
It's definitely spicy, and you've been like all over the place. But the book is not. It's not that it just came out. It's been out for a little bit, right?
Oh, it's been out a long while. Yeah. I can't remember. I was just thinking before I came on. I should have done some research into myself, but you know what? When you get a bit older, your memory goes. And I can't remember when it came out. I think it was published at the beginning of 2018. I think.
So quite a while then.
Yeah. So things have changed, right?
Oh my God, immensely. But the response, I think, really has had to have been fantastic for you to still, be going with it,
Yeah, well, the book for me even feels like it was a bit of my twilight years as far as my vegan activism and community organizing goes, because I started doing what I do as Fat Gay Vegan back in 2010, I believe. So the book really came about because of the 5 to 7 years that I had done as an activist.
Right.
And I was approached by a publisher who said, "Hey, we like what you do. We can see that people connect with you online. Would you write a book for us?" So I had always wanted to write a book since I was a child, but maybe not necessarily this type of book. But they wanted me to write sort of like a compassionate guide to living. Yeah.
I love it.
And it is. It really is. You know, I've gotten through a little bit of it because I didn't get it soon enough. But I love your style of writing. But I think the thing that I love, my wife is vegan and I'm not.
I was thinking about that when I
bet
saw
you were.
Sean was coming on. Yeah.
Yeah, JD's always like, I don't even know how you do it. Not only is she, I mean, she's like no dairy, no meats, no gluten. That's the one. So
oh wow, the gluten thing is a tough one.
It's fun. Yeah, it's fantastic. But you know, she's so committed to it, you know, and everything has its reasons, you know, like she gets congested and headachy from dairy. She gets migraines from gluten, and you know, ethically, the way she is about animals, you know, obviously the meatless. But what was your reason? Like, what was your, you know, what turned your head towards the vegan stuff?
Okay, well, I transitioned into a vegetarian diet many years ago, and that was for ethical reasons. I thought, oh, I don't want to contribute to animal suffering. I was living in Australia because if you can't tell, you've probably already discovered this through the book, but I grew up in Australia, and my accent gives me away.
So is
oh really? Where's she from?
Brisbane.
Oh, that's where I'm from. Yeah.
Really? Queensland, around there?
Yeah, I'm from Brisbane.
Okay.
Which is, as we speak, there's a tropical storm headed that way. So I'm just checking in on friends and family to make sure everyone's okay. But you know, it's so intense when something happens in Australia. The time difference is so different.
So true.
Yeah.
It's not just a time difference. It's like really different. So by the time that I eventually get around to talking to anyone, the tropical storm will have dissipated and headed down to New Zealand or something. So, but I was
Mexico City as well. Do you live in Mexico? I saw on your Instagram it said Brisbane, London, and Mexico City.
Yeah, so I have lived in Mexico City in the past. I did have to come back when COVID happened. I had to move back for work to the UK. But my husband is Mexican and is from Mexico City. This is one of the big changes from the book. The book was written before I was in a relationship with my current husband. So he doesn't feature in the book. But I might have to maybe do a revised version with a little bit about him. Yeah. But it's interesting, Denise, that I'm like, you're not vegan, but your wife is vegan.
Right.
I'm vegan, but my husband is not vegan.
Okay. So you see the struggles.
Yeah. But going back to your question, I was living in Sydney at the time in the 90s. And I can remember I used to eat a lot of Kentucky Fried Chicken. That used to be my go-to. My go-to, my comfort food. And I can remember I was coming back from a shopping trip with some friends in a car, and we're on the motorway or the freeway, and it was a scorching hot day, and we were stuck in a traffic jam, and we got stuck beside a semi-trailer full of chickens.
Oh no!
And it was I don't know what it is in Fahrenheit, but it was definitely over 100. And
oh wow!
I can remember being stuck next to these chickens, and not only was the smell disgusting, like the sort of ammonia sort of smell, but I started to think these chickens are not there for no reason. Like they're going somewhere to be made into food, and I just thought, oh yeah, and we had just been talking about, oh, when we get home, let's go to KFC. And I was like,
Oh,
actually,
man.
I am directly complicit in those chickens being on the back of that truck.
Oh God. Yeah.
And I was like, no, I don't think that's right for me to do that. It doesn't feel right for me to be that sort of consumer that I take products that I don't really need
right
to and contribute to the suffering. So I became vegetarian. And because this was such a long time ago, it was before we had ready access to the internet.
Right.
So I kind of just did it off. I'd heard people were vegetarian. I had a friend who was vegetarian. So I stopped eating meat. But I kept eating dairy. And it wasn't until I moved to the UK in 1998. And in 1998, 1999, I became more aware of expanding my compassion, so becoming a vegan through the internet. It was having ready access or easy access to the internet. Maybe it was the old AOL dial-up. It would take an hour to download one picture if someone emailed it to you. But I started to learn about or to be exposed to information about battery hens and intensive farming and dairy, the way that cows were treated for dairy. And I was like, oh, well, this kind of something clicked in my brain. And I was like, well, if I'm a vegetarian and I don't eat meat because I care about animals and I want to improve outcomes for animals, it's a logical step for me to turn to veganism. And so I went vegan, I suppose, pretty much overnight when I had that realization.
Yeah.
And then it was like there was no turning back. And now I'm super vegan.
Wow. That's a difficult transition to make, though, right? I mean, I tried, like when Gemma was here with Denise, your last trip, I was taking notes on all like, what do you eat? And I bought like the frozen stuff. I started with that, and I don't know. It's just tough for me. It's tough, but I have the same reasons for wanting to do it as you do, Sean. It's not even a health thing. It's more like animals, I think about.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. And I think for me, what it took was that I created a connection, or a connection developed between my heart and my mind. So I understood, like, logistically, and like if I looked at it from a common sense point of view, I was like, well, I care about animals, and if I do this, I'm contributing to their suffering.
Of course.
And then I really believed it was the right thing to do in my heart. And so when I had that sort of clear connection, and that I knew that there were changes I could make, it was like a no-brainer for me. I was like, oh yeah, okay, this, and then it became easy. So before that, it felt daunting, but when I made that really clear line of thought, it didn't feel any difficult for me anymore. Kind of like any sort of social justice decision you make in your life. Once you really have a strong belief in that, it kind of feels easier to toe the line,
Of course, yeah. My wife was gradual, like when we first connected, she was managing a Hungry Jack's.
Yeah.
To put her.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which is the equivalent of Burger King, Jay. So.
Oh, is that what it is? I thought it was a breakfast place. Okay.
No. So she, was pounding burgers on the regular, while she was going to university.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I remember even, when we started a long distance relationship, like back and forth, on the way home from the airport, we would have to stop and she would slam a Whopper, like it was thinking, right? And then over time, I think it was the rise of Temple Grandin, when you started watching that documentary about how intelligent pigs are. And, then she, gave up pork. And then shortly after that, it was the rest of meat, so it was very gradual. And then I think the other things, it was like, why am I always stuffy? Why am I always congested? Why do I, no matter what country she was in, because like we're all over the place, like my parents are still in Florida in the States. Her family's still in Australia. We live here in London. So she was like, it doesn't even matter what country. It's just, I'm so tired of being congested. So she started that process of elimination and landed on dairy. Dairy is what was doing it. And then, the gluten thing was another long drawn out process, eliminating things, because I always associate migraines with not a food allergy, like, oh, maybe your glasses aren't strong enough, or maybe it's too much screen time, or maybe you have the wrong lighting in your office, or maybe it's fluorescence and that kind of thing. But it definitely isn't. So
yeah, I think it's very interesting when you talk about the health aspect, because I meet a lot of people who live plant-based or vegan who have come into it from a personal health perspective.
yeah,
But you'll notice when you get through the book that I don't really talk about health because I'm very mindful of unqualified people talking on subjects like health.
right.
I
It's
think,
very personal, isn't it?
yeah, and I think we have to be very careful as activists not to make claims that we don't have the credentials to back up.
Exactly.
And,
Yeah.
for me, I can talk about my ethical framework or what I believe is the best way that we can live or how we can be kinder to each other. I can talk about that, or I can talk about my own lived experience.
Right.
But I would never talk about, oh yeah, go vegan because it will cure
Yeah.
arthritis or
Exactly.
cancer or
Yeah.
yeah. Post nasal dripping or whatever it is. Because,
Yeah.
but there are some people that want to say that, but I
Yeah.
think a lot of it is very anecdotal.
Mhm.
But if something works for an individual, well, they know that. I mean,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
all
Right.
know how we feel and what's real
Yeah.
for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a lot of uh, trial and error things,
Hmm.
before we landed on that for her,
Yeah,
I'm over there slamming pancakes and sausages and whatever.
yeah,
Yeah. She was like, "But don't you feel this? Don't you feel that?" And I'm like, yeah, maybe a little bit, but you know what? I don't care.
yeah,
I know I
No,
don't have the willpower. I
we
just
have
know.
a
yeah,
we have a chicken at work now that came in our yard. I have a lumber business, Sean,
yeah.
pallets. And we're in an industrial area, but every once in a while, I guess there are like wild chickens, like out in the neighborhood. And so she lives there now. We call her Henrietta. And so we made her a little place to roost and we feed her chicken food and stuff. But I just feel bad. Like you said, when you saw the chickens in the crates, I mean, she's living a nice life, free, walking around, but I can't eat chicken in front of her. Like I can't,
Oh my God,
Yeah.
100%. Yep. Yeah,
I can't
100%.
see myself going that way,
I just saw a meme, and it was like a cartoon, and it was a guy sitting on the porch and said, "Every time a pigeon poops on my car, I sit on my porch and eat chicken wings so he knows who's boss." It's like, oh my God, Jesus. It's
Yeah.
grim. It's so grim. But
But
I think some of the things that I've noticed in this, I don't want to use the word revolution, but as veganism and vegetarianism and all that is
mhm,
gaining steam, um, is there. I have been probably, I can say, to like 3 like plant-based vegan restaurants, and
yep.
it has been some of the best food that I have
yeah,
ever had. I went to a place in Brighton, Kasaki, I think the name of it is. And it was all these amazing like Japanese entrees and appetizers and everything is fully plant-based, and they know every you ask them a question and they've got it down, and the
Yeah.
wow,
presentation of everything. And my thought is always, when we go to a vegetarian restaurant or vegan restaurant, is that I'm gonna leave hungry. Like
Yeah.
I already have it in my head that I'm gonna be starving when we leave. I probably should have stopped at McDonald's on the way. All this stuff goes through my head, and
Yeah.
we go and we in these and I think Kisaki. No, that was not a tasting menu. But some of the places have like 5 courses, or
right,
whatever.
right,
And
yeah.
even though everything that's coming out is so little, you leave so full. Like I couldn't believe that I was full. We had a birthday dinner, and both 2 of the restaurants were in Brighton. Um,
Hmm.
and like I said, there was the Japanese one, and then the other one was Terra Terra, and they were
Uh-huh.
beautiful entrees and food. And I don't even know if it's there anymore, but it was amazing. And then the other one that we go to quite frequently, I think, is near Covent Garden, called Mallow. and that's another one that's fantastic, and it's such a relief, I guess, A, to leave full, but B, that my wife can order anything on the menu.
Yeah.
Like
Well,
she doesn't have to just get French fries or chips, or
yeah.
you know what I mean?
Well,
Like,
could you imagine the old Middle Ages days when I went vegan 25, 26 years
how
ago?
difficult. That was my next
Wow.
question, is that now there's actual restaurants that
Yeah.
feature that, that are built on that. And back, back then it had been like you just got sides. Did you just get a bunch of sides?
You would think that you had won the lottery if they had a vegan risotto or
Yeah.
like a quinoa
Yeah, right.
salad. That
Yeah.
would be the best you could hope for back in the
Yeah.
day. I
Yes.
really didn't, for the first few years or the first 10 years of being a vegan, I didn't really eat out in restaurants because
How could you?
there weren't options. And then we started to get the rise of these places like what you were mentioning, these restaurants, and
Yeah.
Mildred's is a very famous chain, which is also owned by the same people that own Mallow, which you referred to.
Yeah.
And so we started to get this more considered food that was a bit more well put together.
Yes.
And we could start enjoying it. It wasn't like when I used to travel around the UK for either work or for leisure, I would take my own sandwiches because you couldn't get food on the road.
She still does that when we fly.
Yeah.
When we fly,
commitment.
you only have two options, like regular food or just vegetarian. And if it's vegetarian, it's going to be overcooked pasta with some kind. So she the pasta, right? There's no gluten-free option. That's what I think she struggles with, is it's either one or the other.
Yes.
You can get a vegetarian this, but there's gluten in the dressing. There's gluten in this. There's gluten in, it's like that's where the struggle comes in. But
well, Denise, do you ever get to Paris?
I have not been to Paris. I've been other places in France.
Oh, okay. Well, if you're ever thinking of going on a vacation and you need to be swayed one way or the other, I was there a few months ago, and I walked past a vegan and gluten-free restaurant.
Oh my
God! Oh wow!
I can't even imagine.
That's very specific for a whole restaurant.
Yeah.
What do you do for protein? I asked Gemma this. That she said that's like the biggest question, right? For
protein.
What do you do for protein? Because that's my reason for not doing this.
Okay, well, once again, I would preface this by saying nobody should take their health advice from somebody called Fat Gay Vegan.
I love that part. That's what I love.
But I'm probably
got
not
me right off the bat. But
I'm probably not known for my my sort of intricate knowledge of personal nutrition. Like I'm ethical. I'm vegan for animal welfare. I'm not vegan for any health concerns. But saying that, I do work for a vegan food security charity called Made in Hackney. And what I've learned since I've been working there officially for a year and a half, I have been starting to learn a lot more about plant-based nutrition. And also from dealing just with my own personal health concerns and talking to my own doctors over the last few years. Because as we get older, we need to start paying more attention. When you're young, you just think nothing's ever going to happen. And
definitely.
I don't have to ever worry about if I'm getting enough protein or am I getting enough weight-bearing exercise? Are my bones turning brittle? You don't think about these
what
things.
Cardio was, until I was like in my 30s.
Right.
Oh, and throw in everything else like I mean, for me, prostate problem, it all happens. It all starts to go downhill.
Definitely.
So I've started to think a bit more about having a sort of more documented or a more considered approach to how I eat. And I've also had to lose weight because recently, about a year ago, I was diagnosed as pre-diabetic. And I was eating...
Diabetic.
Well, I was eating way too many carbs and way too much sugar and
starches, carbs.
Yeah, and because I was eating food that just tasted good to me and that I felt was what I wanted, and it was all about instant gratification. I mean, we could go into the psychology of my compulsive eating disorder. But when I talk to people who were, paid to help me, they talked to me about sort of combining my food and really thinking about where I get my food from. And knowing that I was vegan, the advice that I was given was the most complete form of protein that I can get is seitan, which is a meat substitute made from
that.
Yeah.
You had seitan bacon somewhere, and I was like,
I never heard of that. Is it like a soy thing or something?
No, it's made from vital wheat gluten flour, which is a flour that has had all the starch taken out of it, washed out of it. But you take the flour and you mix it with water, and you can add spices and herbs and flavor it, but you knead it into a dough, and then you either bake it or you boil it. And it's actually probably thousands of years old. I think it was created possibly by Buddhist monks who wanted to eat more mindfully or more compassionately, but they still wanted, probably recognizing the need for nutrition, but also the value and of the enjoyment of eating something that you could chew, and so it is a really convincing meat substitute.
Mm-hmm.
Is it so it's protein? Does it have a taste to it, or is it like tofu?
No, it's kind of like you flavor it the way you want it to be.
Flavor it, right?
Yeah. So my husband makes it for me. Even though he's not vegan, he really enjoys making seitan.
Oh my God, that's fantastic.
Yeah, and so he uses all different things depending on, I sometimes made seitan with curry powder in it to give it, that sort of flavor. I use liquid smoke a lot.
Yes, liquid smoke.
Apple cider vinegar to give it a bit of a kick. You can put chili powder, paprika, chipotle powder, anything you want in it, like maybe Italian herbs to give it that flavor. And then it's how you cook it as well.
Right.
So you might grind it into crumbles and then put it through a bolognese, or you might cut it into thin slices and then char it up and have it like maybe in a bake like a BLT. And then you can do pretty much anything with it. And once you cook it, it's ready to eat. So if you want to slice it, if you've got like a meat slicer at home, you can slice it like deli slices, or you can chop it up into cubes and freeze it, and then just throw it in a stew or bolognese when you're making something like that at home. It's very versatile. It's incredibly cheap to make.
Yes.
And you control what goes in it. So you can control how much sodium's in it. You can control like the heat if you want chilies in it.
Yeah.
You're in control of seitan, but it is even recommended to me by a non-vegan health specialist here in the UK who works for the government. When he found out that I was vegan and that I was needing to sort of up my protein take, he said, make sure you eat a lot of seitan.
Yes.
So it's recognized as a very legitimate way for anyone, not just vegans, but anyone to get protein into their diet.
Yeah.
Can you buy ready-made? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was going to ask that.
It's hard
to find ready-made.
Yeah, it's tough to find ready-made.
Yeah.
Sometimes in like health food stores, you can buy it ready-made. There is a vegan company over here called Temple of Seitan, and they are a vegan fried chicken shop, and their vegan chicken is made from seitan. And so hence the name Temple of Seitan, which is a kind of a funny play on like the devil, but it's seitan. And so, but they've started recently, they've partnered with a tofu company where they are making pre-packaged seitan ready to eat, and it's in a plain flavor or it's in a pepperoni sliced flavor. And you can buy that in the supermarkets now here all around the UK and I think Ireland as well. And so it's becoming more accessible and cheaper from a retail point of view. But up until about a year and a half ago, you really had to make it yourself if you wanted to eat it regularly. But if I buy a bag of this flour for a couple of pounds, and I'd get like 2 weeks worth of seitan out of it. It's so cheap. It's really satisfying thing to make and eat. And when you're eating it, you just feel satisfied. It doesn't feel like a compromise.
Definitely. Yeah. And JD, do you remember, I don't know if it's still there, the mellow mushroom?
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So it started being like it was
Still have one.
like there's one in Del Rey, right?
Okay. Yeah, Del Rey, yeah.
So it started off like a pizza place in South Florida. But I went there and that was the first time I ever had Tempe.
Uh-huh.
And it was a Tempe Philly cheesesteak. And it was out of this world. It was fantastic.
Tempe like seitan? Is it
It was I think Tempe is more like a seasoned already tofu. Like that kind of base, but it was like cut into really thin strips or whatever, and it was loaded with like, everything, mushrooms and peppers and onions and cheese.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, I think I grew up pronouncing it tempeh, but I
Tempeh,
don't.
yeah.
But it's like it's a traditional Indonesian food, and it's fermented soybeans.
Yeah.
So it's similar in, I suppose, its nutritional properties to tofu.
Right.
But I think tofu is maybe a little bit more not processed. It's still a very natural food.
Yeah.
But it's tofu is a lot smoother, isn't it? And it's
this is very textured.
With tempeh you can see the beans in it all packed together, and it's got a very nutty sort of flavor, quite subtle. Yep. But once again, it really takes on the flavor of whatever you're cooking.
Whatever you're putting with it, right?
Yeah, in Indonesian cuisine, they'll make a lot of curry with tempeh in it.
Yeah.
But you get. I've even had tempeh bacon, so you can flavor it with either soy sauce or liquid smoke, and to give it, like hickory sort of flavor.
Yeah.
Tempeh is very versatile as well. Yep. I think it's a bit more of an acquired taste. I think it can.
Because of the texture.
Yeah. Whereas something like seitan, I mean, I took non-vegans to the vegan fried chicken shop the other day, and they were raving about it. They were like, "This is perfect. It's got that chew to it. It pulls apart. It takes on the flavor. It gives you that feeling. When you bite into, apologies to any vegans listening, but when you bite into meat, there's that satisfaction element to it. Like, what's that term? Is it masticating, where you chew
it,
and it gives you that mouthfeel. And for me, seitan is the closest to that sensation of meat. Yeah.
I think it made me hope. I may hope to do this because I do feel very strong. Not only do I feel strongly about the compassion for the animals, but I do think it's not the healthiest sometimes because of what they feed the animals in the factory farming.
Processes are awful. Yeah.
Awful. They treat them. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
I'm sorry.
No, you go, JD.
Does your husband is it like, do you eat the same thing? Is he cool with that? Does he cook a separate meal for himself? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, mostly we eat vegan. Well, I mean, I eat vegan all the time, but mostly it's in our house. It's vegan meals. Like I said, he really prides himself on his seitan being the best seitan that we've had in the house. And
you lucked out.
Yeah.
I couldn't even attempt it.
Yeah, well, also because he is Mexican and he grew up cooking for his family. Yeah. He has veganized a lot of his family's recipes or food that he was used to growing up cooking.
Cool.
So we eat a lot of really great vegan Mexican food as well. And I know that, I mean, everybody's on their own journey when it comes to food. And I think that, I don't know, or I don't even find myself thinking about whether ever he'll be vegan or not, but it doesn't feel like a compromise. Like in our house, we eat really well. You know what I mean? We're not fighting about, oh, this isn't good enough. And and there is non-vegan food in the world if he wants it. Like, and that's not my business. That's his journey.
That's exactly how my wife and I live. Like I, fill out the grocery thing, on the app or whatever, and then I hand her the phone and she gets the things that she wants. And a lot of times, like, I'll make the base for something, like the other night I made like a big pot of rice and I marinated her tofu and I cut up a bunch of aubergine, eggplant for you, JD, and put that in the in the oven and just, bake the shit out of it. And I had a packet of miso, and I put that over the eggplant and just took out the tofu, dumped it all on top of the rice. And I was like, oh my God, I cooked vegan. Like, I was so, like,
sounds really healthy too.
yeah, I guess it is. But the like my thing is that like I want it to be satisfying. And I always associate like a bunch of vegetables to me isn't going to be satisfying.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's why.
Oh my God, over here, like a baked potato is a meal.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
Right?
But this is why I think, when we approach veganism, especially for me as a vegan activist or a community organizer, I really approach it from a celebratory point of view. Like I don't like to make people feel shame around their choices.
Sure, yeah.
And for me, it's really about, like, I create social events. I still run social events. 15 years later, I run monthly social events with vegans and their friends. I used to run a vegan farmers market. I used to run a vegan beer festival. And to me, I want people to be able to access this world and not feel like it's a compromise or that they're missing out.
Or that it's a challenge.
Yeah, right. Because it's like, if you can feel good in your compassionate choices, you're more likely to stick with it, right?
Of course. Yeah.
And for me, that's really important. And so, like, I think there's a place for all types of activism, but for me, the activism that I've taken on, or I find works for me, is about helping people feel celebrated in their compassionate choices, whether that's for a day or for a lifetime. However they do it, I want to make them feel, that was a really good choice to do that.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. And it's not like we don't have as many excuses, in these days, whereas we did 10 years ago. We're like, oh my God, we're never going to be able to eat out, now, like, like 1 out of 4 restaurants has plant-based things, available, as opposed to 1 in 50. So, we're getting there. And now it's like even when we travel back to the States, we, usually go home for the holidays, and we go to different places. My stepdad loves to take us away for Christmas. He's like Captain Christmas. So, we'll go, right, Rick? We'll go to, Orlando and then St. Augustine and, a couple of different places. So we're always in panic mode, like, oh my God, and my family has taken this on now. What's Gemma going to eat? Oh my God, is there something on the menu for Gemma? And even we went on a cruise, and they assign people who have, intolerances and allergies. They assign an allergen manager, that sit with you at the beginning of the cruise and go over everything you can and can't have. And so that was so handy, that she didn't have to be poring over a menu, because every meal that we had, that allergen manager would come over with the list and places that were going to be on the menu the following day, and she would make her selections. So I think that places are becoming extremely aware, of intolerances, and allergies, but also it's not so pointed at those anymore, because I think they realize that people do it for ethical reasons. And, here's the thing too, like, I remember feeling so bad for her years and years ago when we would go somewhere and all they would have would be the standard black bean burger.
Oh God.
Like that poor thing, she was so burnt out on black bean burgers. Oh my God.
Like them? Did she enjoy them at least?
Maybe the first year, but year after year after year of that being the only thing on the menu, or the only thing in grocery, freezer, in freezers were the Boca burgers, Jay, right? Boca burgers.
Right. Yeah. We sell pallets. We sold pallets to them, to Boca burgers.
So it's just that was the only option for the longest time. And now it's just a relief to be able to go to different areas all over, no matter what country you're in, and, have a little browse on the menu and be able to find at least 1 or 2 things, that hit the mark. And then the rest of course, you got your sides, you know.
Yeah.
Your
Oh, for
skin and
sure.
veg. Yeah. So
Well, what's interesting for us, like the vegans were in the wilderness for so long. We were
yeah.
really, we would just take what we could get. We couldn't eat out in a lot of places.
So
But
true.
what's interesting now is, especially as a sort of conscious consumer who cares about how I impact the planet, I really, being vegan almost isn't enough. Like I have to consider, like, am I going to a restaurant that pays its workers fairly? Am
Oh
I
yeah. Oh,
am
definitely.
I contributing? Like, is the chocolate, even though it's vegan, where is
Fair
it coming
trade.
from? Are there child laborers picking
Yeah.
the cacao? Or
Yeah.
like, I think that we're now at a point where, okay, as a movement, we've done really well to raise the consciousness around veganism and
Let's
animal
branch
welfare.
off. Like let's
But
break off of that.
you know,
Right.
all of these social justice concerns don't have to be siloed. You know, we can think, like, spread our compassion around, right?
Sure.
So
Yeah.
now, yeah, we can get burgers and vegan chicken wings, and we can buy Ben and Jerry's ice cream, and
Yeah.
we
Right?
can do all of these things that we haven't had for decades. So now we have to think as, just like we did a long time ago, like where we tried not to buy sweatshop clothing,
Sure.
and
Yeah.
that's kind of like mainstream thinking now.
Yeah.
I think vegans are now starting to have to reckon with that as well, because we're a few, like almost like a generation behind that ethical consumer movement,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
we just got what we could, and now, oh
Right.
yeah, I can go into Greg's bakeries around the UK and buy a vegan sausage roll.
Yeah.
But how ethical is that, to buy something for £1? Like, who's paying for that? Like,
Yeah.
are the workers getting minimum wage? Can they afford to live in a city like London? What other ingredients are in this? Like,
Yeah.
who fronts up the money for this? Is it some sort of multinational company that also gives
Yeah.
money to, like, arms trading and stuff? Like, honestly, these are concerns we have to think
Yeah.
about.
Yeah.
A
It started with
lot.
packaging, like we were getting like I noticed now, like, my produce and stuff comes in the little nets,
Yeah. Yeah.
not in plastic packaging. A lot of the frozen stuff is coming in things that are, not doubled. So it's not like you pull something out of a cardboard box, a plastic
Mhm.
thing, like
Right. Right.
they're
Right.
being very conservative now, the way they're packaging things, or and over here, recycling, like, oh my God, they're maniacal about it over here. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, up until like I'd say 3 years ago, when I would visit, my family or whatever, and I would like finish a can of soda, and I would be like, "Do you guys have a recycled?" My mom would be like, just throw it in the trash." Like, oh my God, like just the simplest thing.
Conditioned. You've
Yeah,
been conditioned to think about
conditioned,
that.
old school, but now they have recycle bins, and now they break down their cardboard and they put their cans and
I
tins
always
in
cut,
less.
like, if you get like a 6 pack of something like soda or something
Yeah.
and they have those plastic circles
Oh,
around
they don't
it, I
even do that here.
cut those because they could get stuck around like a turtle's neck. Or I
Yeah.
think about that stuff, but I wonder, like, do most people think about that? Like, cut them
They
up.
do, because they've really gone a long way to not package soda
Yeah, that's
anymore.
the best way. Yeah. Do you
Yeah.
find, Sean, that when you start talking about your book and about being vegan, that there are a lot of people like me that want to do it, but we just are like, we're just like not afraid, but just like confused, and you don't know where to start. Like, are there a lot more people that want to be this way, but don't know how to take steps?
Yeah, for sure, and I think that's where the idea of the book came from from this need in the community to have inspiration to make the change. So the
Right.
book was meant to be a non-judgmental, non-preachy
Mhm.
guide to not being an asshole. You know.
I mean, it really reads that way. Like, as far as
Yeah.
the gotten in, it's gentle, it's not an in your face, you know, shaming every person that's ever, had a burger. So
Exactly.
it feels, it feels like a good approach.
And I
Yeah.
really didn't want the book to be like a one issue approach. Like, I didn't want it to just be, hey, be kind to animals. I really included a lot of other social justice concerns in there, and it's actually, even though it came out like 6 years ago, it really is quite timely. You know, I talk about trans rights in the book and standing up for against transphobia. I talk about ableism, and even like, I think I have a bit in there about growing up, even though I grew up poor in Australia, talking about black deaths in custody in Australia. And I mean, it's quite a varied book in the social justice concerns that it talks about. But I wanted to show that if you care about animals, or you care enough to start thinking about going on this journey of plant-based or veganism, you can then spread your compassion to these other areas. And weirdly, a lot of people don't think about how they're all interconnected as well. Like a lot of the powers of oppression that create industrialized farming are the same powers of oppression that are hurting people of color or women or trans people. They're the same forces at play. And so when we challenge those forces, we're actually fighting back for all of these groups that are being marginalized and oppressed.
So true. And it's so one of the reasons why I was working so hard to get you on the show, and I know you're busy, but it was mostly because of what's happening right now. You know, in this moment where they're that's my cat, sorry. Where they're now, she's going in front of the light. Okay. They're eliminating, DEI and inclusivity, and all that stuff is they're trying to associate it, with something that's bad, and it's like, oh my God, like we've worked so hard to get, to a place where it's not bad. And, look what we're going through now. It's like we're fighting something that we beat already.
Yeah.
And it's like, how did we get here? Well, we know how we get there, but it's
how old is, you don't have to disclose if this is private, but how old is your wife, Denise?
40.
Okay. So I'm 51 this year. When growing up in Australia, in Queensland, it was illegal to be gay up until 1991.
That's why she hates going back. She'll never go back. Yeah.
Right. And so when I started going out as a teenager, I had a bit of this isn't maybe for this podcast, but I had a bit of a wild teenage years, and I started clubbing when I was 14. And so it was, when I was going into gay bars in Brisbane, it was against the law. You could be arrested for being gay. And we had an extremely corrupt police system that targeted queer people and targeted Black people or people of color, especially First Nations people, like Aboriginal communities and Torres Strait Islanders. And it was a very violent and corrupt place. And obviously, as a white cis person in growing up there, even though I was marginalized for being queer, I still had some level of privilege by being a white person.
Privileges,
So when the police got us, and they often did, they would often just humiliate us and then let us go. Right. Whereas if I had been a Black teenager in the same situation, I might not still be alive. And I don't say that dramatically, but that happened to a lot of people, and it still happens to a lot of people. But when we talk about what's happening in the US in particular, but it's happening all around the world. Well, we don't have to imagine what it might be like. A lot of us lived through that. Like a lot of us came out of these oppressive policies in our lifetime. I'm only 50. I mean, I'm not, when you listen to the last surviving Holocaust survivor, and you think, oh, how could anyone let that happen? It'll never happen again.
Oh my God.
Hello. I mean, Holocaust adjacent activities are going on all around the world.
Oh God, yeah.
But when we talk about, they'll never take gay marriage away, I was like, mate, I'm 50 and it was illegal to be gay when I was a teenager. So, or we went to an exhibition at the Tate Modern today, my husband and I, and we saw an exhibition about the queer performance artist Lee Bowery, who was extremely famous in the 80s and the 90s, who eventually died, I think, in 1994 from age-related illness. But around the time that he was very sort of popular on the underground scene in the fashion world, Margaret Thatcher was in power in the UK,
Oh my
and there were
God.
really oppressive policies, including this Section 28, No Clause 28, where they were outlawing the mentioning of homosexuality and non-traditional sexualities in schools, and that teachers were threatened with being arrested for talking about it.
Yeah.
So these are things in our lifetimes in the 90s.
Exactly.
And then and you know, like growing up in Australia, we also have this legacy of like racism that people try and think of it as a really old time away, but you know, long time ago, when, you know, before your grandparents, but it wasn't. It's in my lifetime there was something called the White Australia policy, where they were part of it would be to remove First Nations children from their families and place them either in white care homes or children's homes, or with white families, to try and like make them white and forget their indigenous ancestry and culture. And this was right up until I think the late 70s. So this is not ancient history. So the way that queer people are being attacked, and we could slip back into it with a click of the fingers. You know what I mean? It's already happening. It's happening.
It is.
Yeah.
It really is. It's so, you know, it's just, I keep thinking, oh my God, it's like do we have any fight left in us? You know? But I think, you know, everybody questions that in themselves. Like, do I have any fight left in me for this? And it always comes back to yes, of course.
Yeah.
You know, these
are
our rights. Yeah, you have to. Exactly. I think
yeah,
there he is. Okay.
Oh, I'm back. I'm back.
Yeah. It's just really scary that we have to continue, you know, to fight something that we fought and won, you know, and now we have to fight for it again because we're on the verge of losing it again. But I also think that you learn a lot from that. You know, we learn new ways. We learn that, you know, protests do matter and boycotts do work, and you know, all the things that we, you know, nobody likes to do, but we have to. You know, it's just we're just in a really scary time. So I feel like, you know, not only is it's social justice and, you know, vegan activism, they go hand in hand. You know, the activism and the social justice, it all goes hand in hand. And whether it's a little part or a large part, you know, I feel like, you know, everybody's got a little fight in them. Everybody's got a little something that they stand for, you know, whether you just love animals or whether you know, love your marriage rights. you do have to work at keeping them. It's ridiculous.
Fight. Like, you would think that
constant.
Sean, at this point would be ancient history, and it's not, and you know, maybe never will be. It's just it's really unsettling that it could be a fight all over again for things that people died fighting for years ago.
You know what's cool too, though, that you did this in 2018. You know, I mean, and we're talking about it now. You know, and we're talking about how explosive, you know, veganism and vegan activism has become, but all the different avenues that it can spawn, you know, that are going in the right places. So it's almost like you had the foresight to see that.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you brought it back to veganism. I feel like we were talking about Nazis way too much today for my liking. I don't normally like to think about Nazis so much, but you know, you kind of have to in this current climate.
Unfortunately, but no,
you know, that's why the charity that I work with now, called Made in Hackney, it's a vegan community kitchen and food security charity. And we work around London, around the UK, but we also work globally as well. And it's really about, so even though we only make and promote plant-based food, we're not really an animal rights charity. We're doing it from a social justice point of view. We want people to have access to nutrient-dense food that's culturally relevant and affordable. And it helps with health outcomes for individuals and the community, and it's good for the planet. So it's not it's impacting less on the planet. And as a happy bonus for that, for me being a vegan, I get to work there and know that we're not hurting animals to do any of that. And so these sorts of activities, these sorts of communities are so crucial now going forward, because not only are we trying to save the planet from destruction, but we're fighting against capitalist forces that are making people poorer and making it harder to get access to nutritious food. So we've got so many peoples in our cities around the world that are living like food deserts, where they don't have access to clean, fresh food that's good for them and good for their children. And so, you know, and then also the practices of these capitalist food forces are also hurting workers and people in poorer countries where people are being exploited for their labor and their natural resources are being exploited and our environment is being destroyed. So places like Made in Hackney, where I work, or you might be aware of Food Empowerment Project over in the US, which is an incredible organization that is also through a vegan lens, but it is really engaged with workers' rights and people who work on farms who are often subjected to horrible, horrible conditions.
We just want to say thank you to Sean for spending his evening with us. And
Yes.
his vegan.
So inspiring.
Very, very inspiring. And again, if you're interested in any of the things that he was talking about, he also works for a charity called madeinhackney.org. You can go there. And also he has a blog called fatgayvegan.com that you can go to and have his events on there. But he also, they do, you know, what he said, he has an open mic, and he's got on
Open
the
mic
last Sunday of the month,
performers.
Open mic, and the first Wednesday of the month are cooking classes in London. But I think that you can find all that information again at fatgayvegan.com, and madeinhackney.org is the charity. And again, Sean's book I found on Amazon, very cheap. Feeling that if you go to fatgayvegan.com, that you can probably even buy the book through the website. So I would imagine. So thank you, Sean, for spending your time with us. I'm very excited. We got Mike and Chih Lin from the Dumpling Dudes.
The Dumpling Dudes.
Exactly. Are we ready? Can we let him in?
I'm ready.
All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Great, thank you.
So, okay, well, we gave you a stunning introduction.
Oh, good.
I tried to draw your logo, but it's nothing like yours.
Oh, geez, I didn't even notice that. That's funny.
It looks really cute.
Oh, wow. You know, I'm thinking maybe it's your is your internet doing okay? Because you kind of freezing a little bit?
Yeah, you had a little issue earlier. I don't know what's going on. But yeah, we can hear you, but it's the graphic that have issue. Time of day. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. We're good. But So I've been following you guys for a while on Threads and Instagram, and it wasn't until I actually went in and read your bio and did a little research and realized that this wasn't your normal thing. Like, you had big time other jobs and just said, we're going to be content creators. Did I get that right?
Yeah. Well, so we have a very interesting social media account. It's obviously we were Dumpling is our business, and we will be doing that for a while. We are in the middle of pivoting into something else. But even from the beginning, I think our social media is really about 95% storytelling, and only 5% about the business. So it's really more about us and our story.
Yeah.
And then the business just so happy to be on the same page.
What is the business actually?
Yeah.
Yeah. Originally, we started out we wanted to help Chih. He was going through some depression at work and just kind of in this kind of general flux in life, and didn't really know what he wanted to do. He just knew he didn't want to do that anymore, and he wanted to try to bring joy to other people. And so dumplings had always been a part of our life, and so that's why we started with dumplings when we did. Quickly, we found out that it really wasn't about the dumplings so much. It was about the activity, the mindfulness activity of it all. And we really started to enjoy that part of it more and more, and designing that aspect of the relationship with our customers and just how we did events with them. So we're pivoting more into that now. Myself, I'm getting into more teaching yoga. I've been a tutor for many, many years, so I've always had kind of that teaching gene in me as well too. And she's more on that marketing side, so helping businesses kind of design their mindfulness, design the way that they do business, and if they're stuck in lives, then we can help them get unstuck. You know, whatever that looks like for them, right? For us, it meant we had to quit our jobs and start our business and do things for ourselves that way. But that doesn't mean that's always everybody's story, right? So we want to hear other people's stories. What are they doing to get unstuck, right? We don't want to really be the SMEs. We want to hear other people talk about their stories and just kind of create a platform for people to do this. But
the
start of the business, but the start of the business itself was we actually teach people how to make dumpling. It's rainbow dumpling with different color dough. We actually started with just one color, and then somehow it got into 6 color. And then we were posting in the local Houston foodie group with the first time during Pride Month. We started in May, I think. During Pride Month, we posted rainbow dumpling, and then they kicked us out of the group. They say that posting rainbow dumpling is now family value in Texas. So from that moment, welcome to Texas. So from that moment on, I was like, screw you. I'm going to do nothing but rainbow dumpling. So we pivoted up to always do rainbow dumpling, make it fun. And then of course, COVID hit. So we had to pivot into making frozen dumpling for people to pick up. But then once that over, we pivot back into dumpling making with both virtual.
I love the aspect of the reinvention, like you were stuck and you figured out what made you happy and you unstuck yourself, and I'm sure you're helping other people from your social media. I know I've reinvented quite a few times, and I've had to do that, and people don't always have the courage to do that, but sometimes you don't have any other choice when you're so unhappy. Right. So I love that part of your story, that you're doing that and you're making other people happy through your dumplings, which is also awesome because, like Denise said, who doesn't love a dumpling, right? Who doesn't? And you could probably, do you do different fillings, like depending on who the people, like who's making them, what people like in the dumplings?
Definitely, yeah. So, being a process engineer before this, I was in charge of the recipes and things like that, and the process of making everything. And so, what we would do is we would actually have our employees come up with stuff too during the pandemic. That's we tried to stay as unique as possible. So when we sold dumplings to the public at that time, like I said, which we never thought we would ever do, right? We never thought it would be, just dumplings on the corner, right? So what you had to do in 2020. So, we did that, but we came up with like 35 different flavors of dumplings, including dessert flavors. Like we have like chorizo mac and cheese, lamb vindaloo, a boozy pecan pie, like strawberry cheesecake, things like that. And so everything was really unique, and it was all in-house designed. It was all done by our people, and we just took our favorite stuff and said, you know what, let's make it into a dumpling and see if we can make it bite-sized. And so it really became kind of this labor of love for our employees as well too, which is really, you never see happier employees than those that are able to get into what's going on in the kitchen. I think that's really such an important thing. And on the dumpling making side, we also come up with different design. We had like a baby Yoda dumpling that we always make during class. We have roses, like Pikachu, just all kind of fun shapes. And then I think the one that everybody loves is the baby Yoda dumpling. I also want to thank both of you for having us on your show. Also thank both of you for being very your authentic self. And then not just that, but also create a safe space for the other LGBTQ creator, entrepreneur, and just human to be able to have a voice, and you're able to amplify their voice. This is so important, especially nowadays when they're trying to take our voice away. Actually, in reality, they don't even want to take out. They want us to not exist, and you guys provide a space for people to speak up, and that means so much to us. Not just being a gay couple, but being human. And I think we should all be able to amplify our voice. And then the more we can do that, the better our future for everybody Yeah, because we all deserve a chance to live the way that we want to live, and we all deserve a chance to love, and then we are all human. We should all love each other, and then I think people should never forget that.
Absolutely.
Couldn't
Well,
have said it
thank
better.
you.
Couldn't
Thank
have said
you
it better. All right, guys, have a lovely night.
You too.
Take care.
See you guys soon.
Bye. Kiss on your
Bye.
lips.
We